On today's episode of the franchise Friday, May 12th, we're going to be recapping the Sixers and Celtics game 6, Boston forcing a game 7 in an elimination game. Also, Denver winning by 25 points to eliminate the Phoenix Suns from the postseason. The NFL schedule released. Going to go over some of the big primetime games, as well as what will the Suns do in the offseason. And looking at the all NBA teams, didn't any guys get snubbed who didn't deserve to be on there, and all of that. So before we get into the episode, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find the TikTok, Twitter, Instagram in the description of the episode. All right, let's start here with the Celtics forcing a game 7 on the Philadelphia 76ers. Going into this game, Philly has a 3-2 series lead at home. Potential for Boston, the number 2 overall seed in the Eastern Conference, to be eliminated. But Boston comes out here, wins this game 98-86. Very close game throughout majority of the game, even into the fourth quarter. I think with about 5-6 minutes left is when Boston started to really take over. And how about Jason Tatum in this game? Tatum, through the first 3 quarters, was playing absolutely horrible, had a combined total of 3 points. But he had 16 points in the fourth quarter to put his team on top. He really, he is really the reason they won this game, right? Tatum was playing horrible. He has not been great throughout the series, missing a lot of 3-point shots. He's just been missing a lot of shots. He's not been a consistent shooter this series. But in this fourth quarter, 16 points helps put his team on top. Marcus Smart had 22 and 7. Jaylen Brown with 17, 6 for 13 from the field. Malcolm Brogdon, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 for 6 from 3-point range as well. And then how about Boston also starting Robert Williams over Derek White in this game? Derek White getting the start majority of the series. And then Joe Mazzulla decides to put in Robert Williams for this game to match up better against Joel Embiid. And I think this was a great decision. Obviously, it helps. Robert Williams is a great defender, better defender than Al Horford, better on the glass, better in the paint than Al Horford, and matching up against Joel Embiid, the league MVP. Williams obviously did not eliminate Embiid from the game. Embiid ended with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks, but he helped limit Embiid's impact in the first quarter, to start the game. And they out-rebounded Philadelphia. Boston had 44 rebounds in this game to the 76ers, 32. For Philadelphia, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks for Embiid, 26 points for Maxey, 3 for 9 shooting. And James Harden, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, shot 0 for 6 from 3. Philadelphia, 23.5% from 3-point range this game, while Boston shot near 43% from downtown. So, this game comes down to making shots, and Boston won this game because they hit more 3-pointers. They made more shots late in the fourth quarter, where Philadelphia was missing the offensive impact from Harden in this game, only ending up with 13 points and not hitting a single 3 in this game. And obviously, when your team shoots 23% compared to your opponent shooting 43 from 3, there's no shot you're going to win that game. So game 7 is where we're going to be at in Boston. This one will be, I think it's on Saturday. I'm going to take Philadelphia to win this series. I think Philadelphia will win on Saturday. I think they will win game 7. I think James Harden is going to have a performance like we've seen a few times throughout this series. Embiid is going to be great. All of these guys on this Philadelphia team are going to shoot the heck out of the ball. Now, the only thing is Doc Rivers has blown the most game 7s, the most 3-1 leads, and I know Philly had a 3-2 lead, but Doc Rivers is one of the worst coaches in terms of game 7s, 3-1, 3-2 leads. He consistently blows those. I think on Saturday, Philadelphia wins this series in 7. All right, Denver. Denver has eliminated the Phoenix Suns. They once led by 30 points in this game. At the end of the first quarter, it was 44-26. And I think that is really when you can, say that this game was over. Denver went on a 23-2 run at one point. Jokic ended with a triple-double once again, 32 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Jamal Murray, 26, 4 for 7 from 3. KCP had 21 points in this game. For Phoenix, without DeAndre Ayton, without Chris Paul, you are relying on solely Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Cam Payne, though, had 31 points, 7 for 9 from 3. KD, 23 points. Didn't even attempt a three-point shot in this game for Kevin Durant. And Devin Booker, who had been one of the most efficient players this postseason, averaging around 30-plus points per game in the playoffs, puts up 12 points and shoots 4 for 13 from the field. Before the playoffs started, I had Phoenix as my pick to be the representative of the Western Conference in the finals. I thought they were going to – first of all, I thought they were going to sweep the Nuggets. I thought they would win in 4 games, and then I thought they would take on the Warriors and beat them en route to the finals to take on the Celtics and ultimately lose. But now they're out of the playoffs in 6 games in the second round to Denver, and I think there's a few things you can look at with Phoenix. But in terms of Denver, they have been the better team. They've been a more complete team, obviously the better regular season team. They're the number 1 overall seed in the West. Jokic has been amazing. You could argue that he should have won the MVP this year and that he should have 3 straight MVPs. But Denver matches up better against Phoenix. They really do. They have more depth. They have more guys on the bench that are capable of making shots and being there defensively, compared to Phoenix now not having any guys outside of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? With Chris Paul's injury suffered in Game 3 and him not playing the last 3 games, you're missing a guy. With DeAndre Ayton getting injured in Game 5 and not playing in this game in Game 6, you are missing a guy, and your rotation is already as thin as it possibly gets once you traded for Kevin Durant. And now that you are missing your starting point guard and your starting center, you have no players. You have no guys that you can count on off the bench to get you buckets. And it seems like every single game in these playoffs, for every single team, there's going to be a guy or two off the bench, a guy that you don't expect that is going to go out there and score the ball. Marcus Smart had 22 points for Boston. Rui Hachimura had 29 points against the Grizzlies in the first round. There's always a guy that's going to go out there and score the ball off the bench. And I mean, for Phoenix, it was Cam Payne, but a lot of that was in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter when they were down 20-plus points in this game. So Phoenix is lacking depth, and they're also lacking impact from their stars. Devin Booker has been amazing throughout the playoffs, but in this game right here, Game 6, win or go home, he was non-existent offensively. Kevin Durant, 23 points. It is okay. It's good. But for Kevin Durant, who's one of the best players of all time, in this kind of game, this kind of stakes, he needs to be putting up 30, 35, 36 points and actually shooting and attempting 3-point shots. So what does Phoenix do in the offseason? Because it's the second straight year they've been bounced in the second round of the postseason. And when you look at their salary cap table, Kevin Durant is under contract until 2025. Devin Booker is under contract. DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, Cam Payne. Those are the only guys currently under contract to return next season. You're going to be losing Torrey Craig, Darius Bazley, Bismack Biyombo, Damian Lee, Okogie, TJ Warren, Terrence Ross, etc. You're going to be losing a lot of those guys. But none of those guys really impacted your team at all during this regular season. I think the first one is Chris Paul is most likely going to be on his way out. He's on a $30 million contract next season, and it is not a fully guaranteed contract. I think that should be a lot easier to move on from. He's guaranteed 2 more years now, but both of those years are not fully guaranteed deals. I think you could find a team, maybe a team that is looking for a point guard, that is trying to contend, that would consider taking on Chris Paul, maybe even a fringe team that is borderline playoffs, a play-in team could take on the contract of Chris Paul. You could even move him to a team that's one of the worst teams in the league, a very bad team with lots of cap flexibility, and then they could ultimately buy out Chris Paul. I think he needs to be moved in the offseason. I think the other one is DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton, only 24 years old, signed a massive deal in the offseason after initially signing with the Pacers, gets it matched by the Suns. they have to move on from DeAndre Ayton. He doesn't want to be there. He's a very immature player. He does not handle criticism well. He does not seem to have a motor that wants to be on a team that is trying to win a championship, right? So Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton have to be moved. I think DeAndre Ayton is definitely easier to move because of his age and the potential he does have if you put him on the right team. If you trade him for example to the Pacers where he wanted to go last season, there's a potential maybe you can get a Buddy Hield. You could definitely maybe you could get a Miles Turner. Now that might be too high. Ayton for Turner. I don't know how that really works out, but there is definitely teams out there that would take DeAndre Ayton. And if you're Phoenix, what you need is more guys on your bench, right? If you look at what the Lakers were before they made the trade, the Russell Westbrook trade, they were LeBron, AD, Westbrook, and nothing else. They were completely thin. They had no offensive or defensive versatility. But once they traded Westbrook and they get D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, all of those guys, Rui Hachimura, they became more flexible on the offensive and defensive end. And that is exactly what Phoenix needs, right? They need to build around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker by moving on from Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton to gain more depth. They don't need another star. They don't need another guy that's going to, they don't need to make a big three. They need to have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and surround them with great offensive and defensive players. They basically need to get Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson because those guys would fit perfectly around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But I think they could use a point guard to replace Chris Paul. Definitely some more scoring off of the bench, some more depth, and definitely some sort of big man down in the middle of the floor to get boards and be there defensively for this team. And you also have to question, Kevin Durant. Are we seeing the end of his greatness? Because in the postseason, he's been okay. He's been good. But he's not been dominant like we've seen in the past. I don't really want to buy into that. I don't think that Kevin Durant is nearing the end of his greatness. I think he's still one of the best players in the world. He's definitely he's gone through some injuries this past season, entering a new team. I think a full off season with this Suns roster, Devin Booker and this coaching staff should definitely help him out next season. And then you also have to question: do they get rid of Monty Williams, their head coach? Do they move on from him? It's definitely a valid argument to say they should fire him or they should not fire him. I think you can look at it both ways, right? They shouldn't because he's taken them to this postseason success. You still have Kevin Durant for a full season next year, but you also should move on from him because after this year, Kevin Durant has, 2 more years left on his contract. He could definitely request a trade. He could definitely say, I want to be out of here. And then your window has completely closed as a championship contending team. All right. The NFL schedule was released yesterday, and we're not going to go through all of it because that would take forever, but we are going to look at some of these big primetime games, in particular Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night football. How about the first game of the NFL season, though? The Detroit Lions and Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. This is definitely an interesting matchup, right? The Chiefs, obviously Super Bowl champions. It makes sense for them to be the first game of the season. We saw last year with the Rams and the Bills. But the opponent was an interesting one because the Chiefs play a lot of really great teams this season. They play the Bengals, the Eagles, the Bills, a lot of great teams that they play this season. Maybe even a Raiders, a Chargers, a Broncos you could have seen opening the season. Ultimately, the NFL goes with the Lions, and I like this one right here, right? The Lions right now, they seem to be the favorite to win that NFC North division with Aaron Rodgers being gone from the Packers, the Bears likely to be one of the worst teams in the league, and then the Minnesota Vikings, who seem to be, you can assume that they're going to have some regression. They had a lot of wins last season in one-score games. Their secondary was horrible. Kirk Cousins, during the last year of his contract, you can assume that the Vikings are going to regress from where they were last season. And it seems to be that the Lions, after the end of the season that they had last year, should be the favorites to win this division. Now, the Chiefs, if the Lions defense is anything similar to like it was last season, the Chiefs are going to score 50 points on the Detroit Lions. However, this Lions offense is definitely capable of doing the same thing right back at the Kansas City Chiefs with Jared Goff, adding Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It is going to suck that they're going to be missing Jameson Williams, the wide receiver they drafted in 2022 from the University of Alabama. I like this as the first game of the season, though, on a Thursday to start out the NFL season. And then the first Sunday night football game is the Cowboys and the Giants. I don't like the Giants being on primetime this much. They're on it a lot, it seems, throughout the season because they did make the postseason. I think this team's really going to regress from last year to this year. Dolphins Patriots is the second one. Steelers Raiders, Chiefs Jets, week 4 Sunday night football. That should be one of the best ones of the season. And then week 5 Cowboys 49ers Sunday night football as well. Rematch of that NFC divisional round. Dolphins Eagles in week 7. Bills Bengals in week 9 is also a very great game. Niners Seahawks is on Thanksgiving. That should be an amazing game. 2 divisional rivals that are 2 of the top teams in the NFC. Ravens Chargers, Eagles Cowboys in week 14. And then Bills Chargers week 16, and then obviously the week 18 Sunday night football is to be decided. For in terms of Monday night football, you open up with Bills Jets. Aaron Rodgers Jets debut at home taking on the Buffalo Bills. That should be one of the best games of the entire season. I also like here the Seahawks at the Giants week 4 is a pretty good one. Cowboys Chargers. Chargers at Jets, Eagles Chiefs week 11 Super Bowl rematch on Monday Night Football, and then Bengals Jaguars, Chiefs Patriots, Ravens 49ers week 16 should be one of the better games of the Monday Night Football schedule. And then Thursday Night Football, trying to get some more competitive teams to play on Thursday nights, and I definitely think this year, at least it seems, should have more competitive games, more competitive teams playing on Thursday nights. I mean, Giants, 49ers, week 2, Broncos, Chiefs. I mean, the Broncos definitely have the potential to be a better team than they were last season with new head coach. Bengals, Ravens, Dolphins, Jets, Seahawks, Cowboys, Chargers, Raiders, Jets, Browns. There's a lot of great games on these primetime in these primetime slots for the NFL season. We might do pretty soon. I didn't really want to do any sort of, schedule predicting, season standing, all of that stuff yet. But maybe we do because the schedule is released. We're definitely going to do NFL power rankings soon. I don't really know what the heck I'm talking about right now. It's kind of just turned into a fucking trash episode. Anyways, the NFL schedule release right there. This episode sucks. We're ending it here. See you guys next week.